Hi, Travis Burnett, field agronomist with Beck's Hybrids. Joined today with Aaron Brooker. He covers the Michigan area and parts of northern Indiana, and then also Mike Handelwald, field agronomist, northern Ohio. So we're coming to you today with an update on tar spot. This last week, we're in, what is today, the 15th or so of June. Last week or so, we've had some reports of some tar spot being found in some very small corn. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update because it's a little earlier than we've ever really seen it develop in this part of the world. So we've got corn anywhere from V4 to V8 where we're starting to see these tar spot lesions. Much of the area where we're seeing some of the tar spot, we've had ample amounts of rainfall the spring, so we've had that increased leaf wetness. So we're going to come to you guys with a little bit of a recommendation and what to watch out for with tar spot. With that, Mike, why don't you kind of give us an idea of maybe what's different this year with the tar spot compared to years past and how that may influence how we make decisions going forward?
Yeah, so with tar spot, we used to always say that if you saw one black spot on the corn and you knew it was tar spot, you needed to get out there and spray immediately. But you have to think about where it came from. So when the tar spot was initially spreading to our areas, it had to travel from someplace else, and so those spores had to blow in on wind, with wind and storm fronts and such. And so that infection came from the air from above the field, landed on the field, and so that disease immediately was infecting the upper canopy of the corn, which is our critical powerhouse for eventually, filling that ear. Where last year was the first year we saw it in Ohio, where it actually started from the ground, and it's because 2 years prior was the first time that we had seen tar spot in Ohio. It infected the corn, it overwintered in the residue, and then 2 years later, a lot of those same cornfields they went to soybeans, then back to corn again. And so in 2023, we saw that infection start from the bottom, and I would expect to see that again this year in 2024. Now, when it starts from the bottom, those lower leaves aren't very consequential to overall development of the crop, and so the health of those lower leaves isn't such a huge deal. So don't panic if you see it in the lower leaves, but just watch for that upward progression. And once you see it start to make its way up the plant, that's when you want to think about potentially making some treatments.
So like Mike said, overall right now we're not terribly worried right now. I don't think we need to be rushing out there with a fungicide application right away, especially on this small corn. So we've not seen a lot of advantage to getting fungicides out on corn this small. And unless we see this tar spot really start to progress up the plant, I don't think there's much reason for concern until we start getting into those later growth stages and into those reproductive stages. So just watch it right now. Another thing that is critical for tar spot development is just thinking about the leaf moisture and the temperatures outside and how that temperature is going to impact how long our leaves are wet. So we're setting in here in a week. It looks like our temperatures are going to be pretty warm. It doesn't look like there's a lot of rainfall forecasted in a lot of areas. So it could start to kind of suppress the movement of this disease. And we just need to watch as it progresses. But right now, I don't think we need to be rushing out with any fungicide applications and getting too excited about things right now.
Would you expect to see any different results if you've got corn under irrigation?
So if corn is underwater, and if we are starting to run those pivots as we do get these warmer temperatures, if we do start to dry out, that is going to add leaf wetness. So that leaf wetness component, adding that moisture back to the situation, we could definitely see that look a little bit different than just on our dryland acres. So definitely on those irrigated acres, those are things we're going to have to watch a little bit more closely compared with those dryland acres. So as it goes with irrigation, what's your recommendation as far as timing of irrigation? Are there any things we can do if we're going to be running those irrigators to try not to cause more progression of this disease?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's one we get often in the tar spot world up here. But the big thing really comes back to the leaf wetness, the period of leaf wetness that you mentioned, and we can manage that somewhat with our irrigation applications. And there is some evidence that making less frequent, larger applications when you're irrigating, if you have the ability to do that based off of your irrigator and the size of your farm and how much access to water you have, how quick you can make that turn. Or if you can make bigger applications of water less frequently, you can I'm not going to say eliminate, but you can suppress some of the leaf wetness concerns that you would have that would make that tar spot progression even worse. So in other words, instead of running half an inch every other day, if you have the ability to run an inch every 4 days, does that do you lose a little bit from the watering aspect of that potentially? But if you're in a heavy tar spot risk area, particularly if it's corn on corn, if we have a lot of under these irrigators up in this part of the world, we can help manage some of that tar spot risk by managing irrigation with larger applications less frequently.
So again, key things to remember here are just going to be with this early infection, just watch it. If it does start to, move up the plant or start to take over that plant, or if you're in that irrigated situation, we may be looking at a different story. But right now, we're just going to watch this. I don't think we need to be going out with those fungicides right now, and we'll keep an eye on this as we progress throughout the season.
One last thought is just make sure that as you're looking at black spots on a corn plant, that it actually is tar spot. So as a quick reminder, tar spot shows up on both sides of the leaf, both the top and bottom of the leaf, and those black spots do not scratch off. So we don't want a misdiagnosis of insect droppings affecting our management. So just keep that in mind as well. Scout your fields, keep an eye out, and we'll continue to share more information as we see things out in the field.